Well, hello there, Apple Bites. This is your Apple Bite and Written Writ Ralph talking to you straight from our show here, Apple Bites, where we take a bite out of the apple and share it with you. That way, you know what it tastes like because, we're tasting it for you.
Bite, bite, pass. That's the rule, right?
Exactly. Oh, folks, we got a great show for you today. We got some great guests here. You have, of course, Mary and Paul and Leanna all hanging out with us, and they're all going to talk about their beautiful projects. And we're going to, let's get this started right now. Paul, why don't you tell the people who you are and all the good things that surround you and Time Enforcers?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Raphael. My name is Paul Hebert. I am the CEO, creative director, marketing guru, programmer for Time Enforcers. I mean, this has been a bootleg project that I came up with about 4 years ago while we were driving down to Maryland to pick up our dog Suki during COVID. I wanted to come up with an idea for kids, seeing the challenges that COVID was bringing to education in an all virtual environment. And I said, why can't virtual learning be fun? So, and I felt really horrible for the kids going through this as well as the educators. I mean, it was a tough time. And this, I think, is a great opportunity to really take a new look and how we can engage kids and get them motivated to want to learn. And that's really the whole idea in terms of the development of Time Enforcers. And so I came up with the name on the way down to Maryland. And on the way back, I started on my phone going to different websites to see if Time Enforcers is available. And lo and behold, there was nothing. I thought, this is awesome. This is like the prime opportunity to really, create something that I hope is unique, but, also really accessible to a lot of different people. And like I said, this is a project of love for me. I've been a comic book geek and a Star Trek geek. Don't ask me to choose between the two because I will not.
Real
okay. And I love them both fondly. And but comic books are near and dear to my heart, as well as the '60s Batman series. As much as people besmirch that series, I love it. I love.
It is the best Batman.
What's that?
So good.
Yeah, I love Batman. Adam West and Burt Ward. I'm going back to when I was a kid and just loving this stuff up. So, this is a lot of the, background that I had and trying to come up with Time Enforcers. So I really want to make this like an old style retro comic book feel, but also have some fun with it. And like I said, it's a comic book, so there really are no rules. And the way I look at this is, as the story develops, you'd be surprised in terms of things that are going to happen with this program. There's really no game plan as we go along. Things can happen that will be a surprise to everyone as it goes. So,
like we were saying in Garden State Comic Fest, but that's the whole fun of it, and like Matta was saying, Batman's from the '60s is the fun one. It's the let's do stuff one. It's like let's have fun one.
Totally agree. We actually met Tommy, who was dressed up as Batman. He was a Green Hornet. I can't remember if he was another character.
Oh, he did a bunch of stuff that week.
Oh, it was great. I mean, and then I met the other guy, who was his partner. He was the Riddler and Doctor Strange, which was awesome. But the cosplay was just really amazing. That flipped me out the most. I mean, it's all over my social media. I just was like flashing pictures. I don't need to put myself in so much, but I just want to get these people up because some of the costumes are just incredible. That show is just amazing.
But it kind of showcased, or showed, I should say, that you guys were having fun because I saw that you saw the costumes passing by. You were like, oh my god! You guys were like, you guys were the fans, and at the same time you were doing the table.
It's like being a child again, almost.
Exactly.
Where you get to like see all of these things and be like super excited about it.
Yeah, well, I totally mod. I mean, my middle name is Francis, but really it's Geek. So I geek out on this stuff totally. Mary can attest. I mean, we've got comic books in our house that are in boxes, like taking up every closet. So
I know that feeling.
Like I said, it's that's really the whole inspiration behind this is to have fun. I mean, really, if you can get kids to play this game and have fun with it, then they're going to learn automatically because it's not a chore. And that's really where we want to go with this. And having the history aspect to it also includes some STEAM aspects as well. I mean, they're learning about all different characters from history.
Yeah.
And I think that's really sets up this whole platform and framework to be totally expandable because how much history is there? Tons. That means there's going to be tons of levels for Time Enforcers to develop, and there's no guardrails on this. what we can do with it. That's just really exciting.
Well, that's the whole fun of it, and yeah, you guys are doing a good job with this. I love how you guys have put this together. It really, like I told you when I was there at Garden State Comic Fest, my daughter, when she was remote, watching her do all that school stuff was like watching torture, because
Yeah.
they really weren't engaging the kids.
No, it was a big challenge, and they didn't have the materials to really do it right. I mean, it's go from one class to another and sit in front of a screen. Who wouldn't get bored with that? I mean, it was again, it's just a matter of looking at this and thinking about different ways. And part of the things we want to expand into with this is just more than a video game. I was talking with Raphael before this. We want to. I'm talking like big-headed now, like a media empire. So,
you start small, you dream big, right?
Exactly, you got to dream big.
Right.
But just one of the things we were looking at. This actually came from my son. He is in computer programming, and he said to me, "Dad, this could be a really great opportunity to develop a program for kids in junior high and high school to have a curriculum set up where." That will be like a project-based learning program from a whole semester of school from start to finish. You get a group of kids working together. They come up with an idea for a character in the game. They have to do the research, and then they go ahead and develop the character. That means the animating and drawing, and then they have to program the levels. And then by the time the whole project is over, not only have they learned project management and also how to collaborate with one another, they have a tangible asset that they've developed and actually is a real world product. So that's kind of what we're looking at in terms of expanding this out, into new realms. And that's really exciting to me in terms of where it can go.
I know, Mary, you have a large part of this, because I know you understand the psychology, the nitty gritty of it. Why don't you tell the people who you are and how you're a part of this? Go ahead.
Well, primarily supportive wife, which I'm happy to be. Paul's really the brainchild and the tech and art and coding talent. But definitely I was here to consult and chat with him about developing this with an eye for inclusivity, accessibility, and what they call universal design in my business. I'm a college adjunct professor, and I run a program for students with learning differences and helping to onboard them to college settings and help them to be successful. And so I'm really keen on making sure that things are accessible and inclusive to all different learners and young people, so that they can be a part of an opportunity like this. I'm not the comic guru as Paul. I definitely am a Batman fan from my youth too. Certainly don't have the longevity of the passion as Paul, but I've developed it because I'm married to him. But what I loved about being at the comic event was I had never been to one when I met you, Raphael, and I was so struck by the diversity and of ages, of every representation of who we all are and how inclusive the comic world is. And I loved that. So I'm here guiding and giving my voice to how to make sure this is accessible as a learning experience, and the design is accessible with visual and auditory things, being mindful of that. And then just thinking about how to incorporate it as a learning experience, since I've been in education for so long. And also, sorry, that's my dog. And also just to have fun. Yeah, right? I mean, she's right here. So, yeah, we just want to have fun with it. And what I really love about it, to be honest with you, because there's a lot of discussion in my business and education about this, is where are we heading with the humanities, given how dominated it is with technology now in our society? Yeah. Like, what are we doing about humanities, the capacity to critically think, regard history, incorporate that? And I love that this whole digital technology type of experience, it really accentuates learning about one of the humanities, history. So that's really cool to me.
It's funny. I talk to a lot of people, and everybody always goes, "Oh, Ralph, you're a writer," and they expect me to talk about how my English teachers inspired me, but I've never had, and it's sad, I'm not going to say that they were all bad English teachers, but I've never had an inspiring English teacher.
Yeah, they all just kind of phone it in, right? They're just like, I'm just here to collect my kind of sad paycheck, and if you pass, you pass. If you fail,
Exactly.
you fail.
My teachers that got me to become a writer are my history teachers.
I remember you saying that.
They were amazing. They actually told you a story, and they made you feel that story. And I didn't have the regular history teachers that would tell you, well, this is history. I had the history teachers that go, okay, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but
Oh, those are the fun kind.
exactly.
Forbidden
All of them
knowledge.
rebels. All of them rebels.
Excellent.
I think that's where I got my rebel streak from.
That's also what happens when like your history teacher is actually passionate about history, because they're like, all right, the textbook is going to tell you this, but actually here's the real story.
Exactly.
Because they want you to know the truth, which is amazing.
It's so funny though, because I'll run into people and they're talking about history and they're like, oh, I never knew this or I never knew that, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like when Juneteenth started to become big again, I was like, yeah, I learned about this, you know, and they're like, well, I never heard of Juneteenth. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Stop making up holidays. Like, no, dude, this was a real day and this is super important.
And it bugged me out because you sit there going, okay, well, how were you guys taught, you know? And I know it wasn't just my teachers teaching this stuff. Then, you know, I was talking to somebody else and they said, what happens sometimes is we don't pay attention. So we don't remember that we were taught certain things. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But at the same time.
But the bells start to go off though, right? I mean, it's like in the back recess of your mind. I mean, this reminds me of something at some point.
Exactly. It should.
That's what drives me crazy because, you know, researching these topics, I started getting my mind blown like daily. I mean, there's one character that I found through research. His name's Benjamin Banneker, and he's actually an African-American colonialist during the American Revolution. He actually knew Thomas Jefferson. He was a civil rights activist to try and fight against slavery, but he also invented the first wooden clock in the colonies. And my mind went, time and force, wooden clock. This is great. I gotta do something with this. It was just totally amazing. It's finding gems like that just really makes it really exciting for me. So it's just really cool.
Yeah, and I was recently talking to someone who was talking about the concern over the amount of Black history covered in educational settings, and that it shouldn't just be about slavery, but highlighting the achievements and accomplishments of various races and ethnicities, and, you know, representation, I think, is so important. So I love that Paul found that. He's a really awesome historical figure.
Yeah, and most of the characters, as I say, all the characters in the game are based on someone in history, and I get it a lot. I mean, one of the main characters is C.T. Huygens, who is this professor-looking type for the Galactic Space-Time Consortium. He founded it with H.G. Wells, by the way. Anyway, guy looks like Albert Einstein. I said, no, it's not. I said, this guy was actually based on Christian Huygens, from a Dutch scientist from the 17th century. He was one of the main scientists who formed the scientific revolution. He actually invented the pendulum. So it's just stuff in bringing that information in without kids really knowing about it, kind of like ease it in, and they get a learning experience without them really realize what's going on. So that's kind of, you know, a little.
You trick them into learning. That's
exactly, Matta. That's the whole point.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a sneaky little trick. And when we were at the comic event, Raphael, there was a little girl that came by the table, and she was with, I guess, her dad, and we just had a bowl of like free grabs, like stickers for your computer, things like that. And the little girl was really intrigued by Amelia Earhart sticker, who's the main character in our game. And she just liked it. And I told her who it was. And I told her I was the voice actress for Amelia. And, you know, it was kind of a fun little conversation. She was young, you know, she was really probably about 8, Paul, about 8 years old.
Yeah.
So the father later came up to us, and this to me was super exciting, and why this game to me has potential and the capacity to reach young people and parents. He said, you know, she didn't know who Amelia was, but when we walked away from you all, she said, who's Amelia Earhart? And it generated a whole conversation about the accomplishments of Amelia Earhart and made her really curious. And that's it, you know, is sliding it in and creating a desire to learn more.
Exactly.
Yeah, I bet you she's gonna go home and like look up every piece of information she can about Amelia Earhart now, and that is awesome.
Yeah,
you hope, right?
Exactly.
That's really one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this, Matta. I mean, the game has a whole host of resources that I use to find the information out about these characters in history. And so I wanted to make sure that was given to whoever played the game. That way, if they want to take the next step, it's like, wow, I really think samurai warriors are cool. Maybe I can get more information about them, because that's how I consumed history when I was a kid. I mean, when I learned the Civil War, again, geek out. I mean, it was like the best time to learn about the strife of our country and what we had to deal with to come back together. And it was just amazing to me that we went through this whole process. But I went and actually started researching things on my own. The history book wasn't enough for me. And, you know, back in those days, I'm not going to date myself, but there was no internet. So I went to the library and, you know, found the books myself. So that's really the
That's
way,
what you did. That's what we did. That's what we did back then.
Books.
We went to an actual library, and you had to go.
Yep, the building with the books.
Yeah.
Yep.
I still love my building with books.
Exactly.
Yep, I still love a building with books too.
If you can see, I'm still books. That's all my research stuff back there. It doesn't go away.
Yeah.
You know, and when I started learning, and Joseph Campbell was my big thing, and I ran into him on Channel 13 one day when I was just like watching TV, and then I fell in love with him, and I followed him ever since, and that led me to Carl Jung and a whole other plethora.
Oh.
Yeah, because you know, if you follow Joseph, then you got to follow Carl, then you got to follow.
It's
just
amazing,
like,
right? It just goes
yeah.
on. Yeah, it's really incredible. You start, you know, sparking that curiosity like there's no end to it, which is really cool. You know, so, you know, one of the other things I say, because I've played video games since Atari. I mean, I've played 8-bit, 16-bit, I played 64-bit, whatever you want to say. I played the bits, but, you know, I've always had a fascination with, like, you know, looking at some of these games. It's like reading a fiction novel, which is cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like they have pages and pages of lore that, you know, how does it really apply to my life? It doesn't, but it's neat to read. But I thought, let's make it more worth learning and actually give the kids an opportunity to use something they can use outside of the game. That's really another inspiration what came about for the game for me, in terms of looking at it from that point of view. So,
Leanna, I have to say, because I know where your books come from, so, and I feel like you fit right into this conversation. So, and I know that when I was doing my stuff, especially because I love writing gods, you know, just like Matta loves writing gods, and you know, mischievous ones, and I've studied all that stuff, and I've gotten good at making it fit into what I'm trying to do. I know you're constantly writing in history, and how do you balance it out? Because I know you're still doing your own thing, but at the same time, you're trying to give it the feel of when you're writing from.
Historicity is really important. You also have to get people engaged in it. So that's definitely a conversation I think we're all having, of how do you make history interesting and fun. And yes, I do a lot of otherworldly aspects. I basically create in my novels, as a novelist, I create a realistic 19th century in which paranormal things happen. So I'm a ghost tour guide in New York City. So I walk the streets of Manhattan and share with people some of the haunted history that's there. And some of the things have been embellished through the years. Other things are legitimately, genuinely, completely uncanny, that have never really been truly solved. And we talk about very often centuries worth of haunted history around interesting spots in the city. So I put a lot of that into my actual books as well. But see, I write fiction and nonfiction now. So over the past couple of years, I've shifted into doing nonfiction about haunted spaces, where we Andrea, my co-author, and I, where we talk about, all right, here's the baseline of this actual historic place and these actual historic people that lived there. Now here's where the haunted history comes in, and we'll debunk some myths, and then we'll talk about some stereotypes that may have led to why the building got a reputation as being haunted, these kinds of things. So sometimes there's a certain chicken and the egg about where fiction and nonfiction can kind of come in together. And representation of real history when you're talking about a real person, or if you're fabricating someone in a historical context, the more research that you can do to be respectful of that time period as well as respectful of that person. And if it's somebody of a different background than yours, then doing the research and hiring sensitivity readers to look at those types of things to make sure that you are that you're actually really working to not do harm or reinforce harmful stereotypes in what you're doing historically. So those kinds of things, reading diversely, having a diverse group of people around you, taking in diverse viewpoints, that's so important when you are writing any kind of work, but particularly when you're looking at history, because you need to include some of the marginalized people whose stories weren't originally included historically. And so that also factors into why I'm doing the theatrical production that I'm doing as well. So we can either segue into that, or I can answer other questions.
Go right ahead. Segue right into
I
it.
like your books because I love weird haunted history things, and I would love to know more.
Yes.
Exactly.
So I will say my latest book, you can see it's here behind me. My latest novel, it is nonfiction. It's called A Haunted History of Invisible Women, True Stories of America's Ghosts, and it is co-authored with Andrea Janes, who is the founder of Burrows of the Dead in Manhattan, which is New York City's top macabre tour company. And
Nice.
I was her first employee, so we've been working together for 10 years. And we started writing together a couple years ago when an editor who took one of my ghost tours said, "I love your fiction, but I think you need to do a nonfiction about some of these stories you're talking about." So that's where this nonfiction book about real history, real women, real ghosts came in. And again, we do a little debunking, but we also share some of the things that can't be debunked, the things that are real, true, uncanny spectral experiences that often have a really long documented past. So for us, representation is so important. That's where it comes to Let's Misbehave. Historical representation is really, really critical. So in addition to being a novelist, in addition to being a fiction and nonfiction writer, in addition to being a ghost tour guide, I'm also a professional actress. So I was classically trained and went to school for theater, got a BFA in theater performance, and then went touring around the regional theater circuit around the nation, and did a lot of great leading roles in a lot of wonderful different regional theaters. And I joined the union, Actors Equity. And then I realized I really wanted to focus on some of my books. So I took a bit of a break from doing much professional theater. And so after years of not doing a full theatrical production, I finally am ready to come back to the stage to do something I'm really, really passionate about. And that's this play. It's a brand new play. It's called Let's Misbehave. It is a jazz age romp. So it's set in the 1930s era of London. So it's a really fun environment, but it focuses on a group of marginalized gender identities. So in this 1930s setting, at the core of the play stars trans characters and queer characters who at that time period had different language for what being trans meant, different language for what being queer or having a different gender identity or being non-binary. Any of those things meant in the 1930s. Folks were still around. Folks have always been around. How people have talked about those identities has changed through the years. Yeah. So the playwright, who is a trans man who is writing this lovely play about existence being resistance. And in this particular capacity, we have about 3/4 of the cast is either trans or non-binary performers playing in a historical play about queer and trans joy. The character that I play is called the Countess, and she is a baddie, larger than life, completely fun and over the top character who is, every time you see her, a different goddess that she has decided that she is reincarnated as. And she's the ultimate ally character in that here she is, she's older than the rest of the cast, and she is married, is a countess, she's married into wealth, and she hosts these lavish parties that protects this little underground scene of queer and trans youth. And so I love the fact that she's sort of their benefactor and protector by throwing massive parties. It's sort of like life goals. That's the kind of ally I want to be. So in this particular regard, it's just a really fun way to have a celebratory experience about identity and being yourself and being able to find your people and find love and find romance at a time when that was socially not fully out or able to be proud or able to be even really vocal about the truth of the situation, and yet still there were folks who were finding their joy. There were folks who were finding their people. There were folks that were finding their family and finding out who they were. And so this, is basically just a lovely romp of a show, but it does talk about that historic representation that very often was left out of actual history books. There's plenty of 19th century photographs of queer couples and of trans folks. It's just that, again, the language would have changed and it would have been different from one time to the next.
They were roommates.
Celebrate some of that history. Yeah.
Definitely, and it's funny because I feel like society today goes, this just showed up a couple of years ago, and you sit there going, no, it's been around for a long time.
That's the thing too. It's like with diversity too. It's like you're talking about with Time Enforcers. There are these wonderful historic characters of all kinds of different racial backgrounds who are doing incredible things. It's not like the 20th century created diversity or these different gender identities. All of these things have been around since the dawn of time. All people have been around since the dawn of time. It's just a matter of, okay, well, let's reframe how we talk about history and make it more inclusive as we go.
Yep.
Right.
Totally agree with that. Yep. Totally. 100% behind that. Men, woman, that doesn't matter. I mean, everyone has an influence over what happened in the past. And it's just, that's what's fascinating to me. And this project you have is just really cool, I have to say.
Thank you. Yeah, we are crowdfunding because one of the things that is difficult when you do have a lot of folks with marginalized identities who are at the core of producing something, this has been a labor of love for the writer, for Lawrence Bello, the playwright, wanting to produce it himself with a cast that him and director Eve Goldfarb have chosen directly. And I've been honored to be a part of this show since its very first reading. And just I fell in love with the character of the Countess and fell in love with just the whole sweet nature of this show. And so it is being fully crowdfunded as an independent theatrical production. So a brand new theater company was created just for the purposes of this show. Wow. And are paying union wages and union comparable wages to, some marginalized gender identities who very often don't have a whole lot of roles in traditional theater spaces to play that get to showcase their gender identity as they would want to be seen and would want to be on stage in something that lets them be the starring role. So that was really important for all of us to sort of have the type of control over the production environment and say, you know what, we have the capacity, let's try to do it and see if folks want to be a part of it. And the really neat thing about that is that we've been working with the Actors Union, Actors Equity, to make sure that we're doing this that can give nice wages to those who are working on the show, and also offer a virtual ticket option so that people can watch from anywhere in the world. We are doing an actual show.
That's a good idea. Okay.
That's a great idea.
A real show. We're doing a show in a theater at the Cambridge Foundry on August 23rd through 25th in Cambridge, Massachusetts. But also with this angle of you can buy a virtual ticket for a one live stream access, a one-time watch of the show from wherever you are in the world. Because again, we want this to be accessible so that everyone can have a bit of a party with us. It's a whole show about having a party, basically, and about finding your people and about finding love and acceptance. It's got a great message in that regard. Plus, it's a little sweet, a little saucy. It's got something for everybody. And so yes, it is definitely something that lifts up the queer community, but it's also for allies. It's also for anyone who enjoys period pieces and drama and fun. Very Noel Coward kind of vibe. And again, I'm really proud to be a part of something that's literally grassroots independent theater that is kind of doing its own thing outside of a staid institution, outside of something that has, it is a long-standing theater company. I love long-standing theater companies, but I also love being a part of something that's really brand new and fresh.
Here's a question for all of you, because as a history buff, I've realized, that you have this thing now where history has gotten like this really bad rap, where everybody seems to be taking it and going, well, you're only using that for this, or you're only using that for that, or all of a sudden now this history. I'm like, no, this history doesn't all of a sudden exist. This history has been there the whole time. You just don't like where this history is going, what's happening with this history. What do you guys think this is happening? What do you think that history has gotten this weird taboo-ness to it now? Anyone can start.
Good question.
Are you trying to say, Raphael, that sometimes history is used to the advantage or disadvantage of an argument, or the way something is presented or slanted?
That too, but I find that what's happening now is that they want to have you forget history. They want you to go that,
create a new one.
Don't bring it up. Why are you bringing it up? And it's not just one side or the other. I feel like both sides are doing it, where they're like, why are you bringing that up? There's no reason to bring that up.
It's in the past. You don't need to know that anymore.
Exactly.
Well,
I definitely think people don't like being made uncomfortable, and there's a lot of uncomfortable things about history. And so if people are too fragile, frankly, to handle the fact that history has been violent and bloody and unfair and unjust, I'm sorry, but I don't care about that fragility. I don't, because I care more about the people who have been hurt through history, by their stories not being told, by oppression, by marginalization. And so I think it's coming from people not wanting to confront the discomfort of the truth of history. And I think you need to lean into the discomfort, because that's the only way you're going to stop injustices from happening again.
Yeah, I just to that point, I mean, people aren't perfect. As much as people think they're perfect today, they're really not. And I think understanding those imperfections teaches people, well, maybe we shouldn't be doing what we're doing now because it didn't really work that well in the past. And, it's the old saying, those who ignore history are doomed to repeat it. Well, you have to understand where we came from to know where we're going, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it's pretty simple as that. And like Leanna said, I mean, yeah, there's some really bad stuff that happened, but we got to know about that bad stuff so that we don't do it again, and become better people for it. So I think ignoring the history, ignoring, things that happened is a total mistake. And I think if the information is presented in an unbiased way, and it really provides the information in a scope that people can assess it and really understand it, then they appreciate it more, and they think, well, this didn't work before, maybe we try something different, and see how it goes.
I think people think that truth has, I'm sorry, what's that?
I know it's such a rational stance to have, and it's amazing that there are still people who are just like, no, this makes me uncomfortable, or it makes me feel guilty, and it's like, well, you didn't do it, but it would benefit you to at least just know about it.
Yeah.
I think people think that the truth has some kind of agenda, and I'm like, no, the truth is just the truth of things. Now there is misinformation, and misinformation has an agenda, and I know as educators, I'm sure Paul and Mary, you are fighting misinformation all over the place. So we have to really get, media literacy is now more critical than ever before. So there's agendas with that. But when we look at, stuff that is historical record, that stuff doesn't have an agenda. The more of that historical record we have, the better we are prepared for what's ahead.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree, Leanna. And I think that, unlike when I was growing up and learning, and you had to go to the building with the books to get information, and the school with the teachers to get the information, kids have accessible, they're at their fingertips in their phone. There's a whole computer in the palm of their hand constantly to access information. And so what I've been focusing on as a professor and working with young people, and even my own kids, is not just teaching facts and information, but how to think through that information, evaluate the credibility of the sources, the perhaps agenda of the sources, the slants that are embedded creatively in the sources, and be able to think as an independent person. And I heard my son reflecting on this recently about politics, like how do we develop self-initiating information seekers who can think through the information. And I always say to my students, and really discern, pick apart what's a credible source, what's not, what's a persuasive presentation versus more of a presentation that's going to encourage you to think. I always say to them very honestly, I don't have the ego that says you're going to walk out of my class and remember even 2% of the information in terms of the facts. But if you walk away with the message that you're being encouraged to critique and think at what's coming at you 24/7, including from a professor or online, then I feel like I've move the needle into a more positive direction, right? So I think like with Time and Forces too, it's, delivering factual information and such, but encouraging discovery, encouraging, one time one of my children, when we watched sort of an uncomfortable movie when they were sort of at like your child's age, Raphael, they were early middle school. I remember one of my kids reacted to it, and my other child said, what's art if it doesn't make you think and feel? And I thought that was a remarkable young insight on his part, and it stuck with me. And it's true. We've got to be able to squirm comfortably, Leanna, like you were saying, and be okay with that, as the keepers of being adults guiding these young people. I just think it's our responsibility. Does that sound too heavy? But I believe that.
It's not too heavy.
And I think delivering information helps people think and reflect if we allow them and encourage it, right?
I was going to say it's not too heavy because that's exactly what my history teachers would do. They go, I'm giving you this information. You're supposed to go out there and figure things out on your own. Just because I said something doesn't mean that is what it is. It just means I've given you this information. And that's time for you to go out there, discern this information, figure it out, do the research, and find out what's the real truth.
Then how is it going to be relevant to your vision of how to live life and be in community with other people and make the world a better place? I mean, you'd hope that would be the goal, right? But we want our young people to be able to think independently and be responsible and regard history and incorporate it into the present. And so it's a lofty goal for a digital comic book history game, but it starts young. It starts with the young people to support creativity and motivation to learn, right?
But I totally say that, Mary. It's all about inspiring that creative spark when someone. I mean, just watching TV or watching a phone and TikTok. I mean, that's not really inspiring any kind of creativity. I mean, there are some interesting things to watch in there, but if that's your information, you got to really branch out and look at other things, and that's really what we're hoping to do. So. Yeah,
definitely.
And that's exactly what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to be inspired to go find out stuff. I love the story about the little girl, and she hears this new thing and she goes, I gotta find out more about this.
I want to know more. And Paul and I were thinking ahead to like additional marketing. Not marketing, but tangibles that event. Because kids like stuff like that represent what they're into. And
who doesn't?
And we all do, right? And and we were thinking of how to encourage, like we were reflecting on that little girl's reaction to this simple little vinyl sticker for her laptop or whatever. And I was just thinking about her, and I'm like, gee, what I would hope is that she walks away amazed at what a woman in the times, like you were talking about, Leanna, in the context of the times that woman was living in, where wearing pants was like, woo, and let alone get into a plane and fly across the Atlantic, right?
Exactly.
Will that inspire her for her own vision of what women are capable of, right? So again, that self-journey as a result of knowing pieces of history from those who might have historically been a bit marginalized, women being some of them underrepresented in contributions to my field of psychology and education, et cetera. And we can go on and on about all examples, right? But, the inspiration behind all of those things is amazing to think about being a part of generating for young people.
Yeah, I mean, just the whole aspect of Amelia Earhart, Helen Keller, it blows my mind what these women did, in times when people said they couldn't do it. And they put up barriers for them not to do it. I mean, Amelia Earhart's parents didn't want her to fly an airplane. They discouraged her from flying an airplane. She said, I'm doing it. And it's just that initiative and that resolve that is really, truly inspiring. I mean, it's just really great stuff. It's awesome.
Also, kids want to learn. I mean, like a kid will pick up something and they'll just be like, what's this? They'll have like a million questions.
Exactly.
And
they're curious.
Yeah, they're curious. They want to learn. They want to know what things are. So like that should be encouraged instead of just being like, shut up, kids, stop asking questions. Like,
we don't want to do that.
Yeah,
no, we definitely don't want that.
Questions and like encourage them to, even become grown-ups that ask questions, because like you don't grow out of that.
I think some of the challenge nowadays is they're so inundated with 24/7 access and things coming at them. And what I love about the books that Leanne is creating, and the artistic pieces in representation in theater and comic books and video games, like there's so many platforms that we can use in a fun and responsible but enriching, exciting way. Like you're saying, like kids do want to learn. It's just sifting through everything that's coming at them it's challenging. It's challenging,
especially when you have AI results that are not at all factual. So that's the new, it's the new sort of scary thing. I just saw, a Twitter thread about, and I will always still call it Twitter. I don't care what it calls itself.
Yes.
It'll always be Twitter.
1,000% always.
Yeah, no, for Leanna.
So I just saw an educator on Twitter talk about how the kids were actually trying to look up answers to things, but they were using the AI search bar. And that was like a search bar, whereas differentiating the AI search bar, which gave them wrong answers, versus an actual internet search bar without AI, which would give them true answers. And it was stuff about how like an ancient language had developed or something. It was something very specific.
Right.
And here they thought they had found this pretty comprehensive answer, and none of it was actually true. And so that's
a bit scary.
That's the nightmare, I think, for educators right now, is when kids think that they're actually doing the right thing and they're looking something up, but they're using a tool that is in fact misinformation.
Why is it so bad, and why is it allowed?
Why is it allowed on the internet is what I want to know, because it's all been trained off of stuff that's been stolen. I mean, we're all artists, we're all writers.
Yes.
I had 7 of my novels were stolen without my permission.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Fed into the machine. And so I am one of, my literary agent knows this, and I'm in a database as many of just about most of my author friends have at least one book that were, in this database. And so all of this stuff that's been stolen, and it doesn't come up even with the right answers, all it does is really waste energy and our planet's resources. And so that's really what's scary for me, for educators right now. And so I don't envy people in the classroom right now having to differentiate these things and just to sort of explain, okay, well, this search bar is going to give you something silly, and this bar
is only,
and this one's the one you want to go to. But even then, at what point, how do we really try to find the truth? Even just trying to do research for those of us who are adults and who are trying to do research on books has become more and more difficult, because you have to search through all the things that are not actually
valid.
That are
that's the thing that I start with, like the tried and true sources that I know are going to be more or less factual, and then
really reputable.
Branch out, because as a historian, I don't claim to be a historian, but I'm writing history for a game. I have to understand the subject I'm talking about in the game itself, and so that means educating myself about it, so that anything I pass on to someone is going to be valid. And that's my biggest concern. I don't want to be passing misinformation. That's not the point of this. It's really to get kids inspired to learn on their own. So if there's a reference in the game, I want to make sure it's pointing to the right source that they can go to get the right information. That's really important to me.
Don't want to be telling kids that they're allowed to eat one small rock a day.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, no, we ate dirt as kids, though, Matta. We had no problem with that.
I've eaten some rocks in my day. I turned out okay.
I ate dirt, I ate rocks, I ate a lot of stuff I wasn't supposed to eat. Yeah.
Bugs.
It was
Let's
great.
not talk about the bugs.
You see it in The Lion King, and they're like, oh, slimy yet satisfying. You're like, all right,
Exactly.
well, fine.
Yeah, I was. We had a woods in our backyard when I was a kid, and we just get on our bikes and go. And it was one day I was at this one part of the forest. It's kind of forest, I guess. But anyway, sitting on this mound of dirt, and all of a sudden I'm feeling all these like things crawl my skin. This mound of dirt was actually a red ant hill.
Oh.
I was like,
I've done that. I've stood on a red ant hill while fishing. And
no, I got up pretty quick. It was like,
Bring a chair.
I've been on one too, so I can't say that.
I feel like it's like a rite of passage as a human to just accidentally settle down on a red handheld.
Oh, it's horrible, man. Oh,
I think a lot of kids are missing that though, no, Matta. I really do. I think they're missing that.
Unfortunate. Everyone should have that hopefully once in a lifetime experience.
It's a
Everyone should be
learning,
terrified by
teachable
nature.
moment. Yeah.
Everyone
teachable
should be.
moment.
Everyone.
so I see that you're doing this contest, so you can pick the next what is it? The next person telling the
Character,
story,
yeah.
the next character telling the story.
Yeah.
And I know that that's what you did with the first one. You know,
Yeah.
the first part of the game. In that one, you guys ended up picking the one you wanted.
Well, I'm continuing it out, Raphael. So I thought the response at the con for Garden State was really impressive. I mean, we had a lot of people really take part in it. So I figured let's continue through the summer. I mean, I'm going to be attending other shows, and I'm going to be doing email blasts and all that kind of good stuff. So I'm extending this out to the end of the summer for people to take part. And so at this last show, we actually handed out prizes. I mean, the girl that Mary's talking about actually won one of the prizes, and
She won one of the raffles.
yeah,
We
her
were
dad said she really wants a picture of Amelia, so I gave her, the frame print of Amelia Earhart.
Nice.
And, a whole bunch of
Bunch
other
of
swag.
swag.
And I gave her a T-shirt, and you guys are welcomed as much swag as you want. So I'm happy to give that away to you guys.
So
Just
wait,
give
do
me
you
a
have
call.
a link for where people can vote for this?
Yeah, so it's on the site. I mean, if you go under Heroes and Villains, there's actually a link to the contest, and then you go in there and you actually hand over your email address, and then you actually go up to this,
So you have to hover over it, right? And there's like a drop down.
There we
There
go.
you go.
next
Time
Time
Enforcer's next
Agent
agent contest.
Yep, that's it there. And so you can see, you need your email address and where to send it to, but we are also providing like 3 levels of prizes. So there's a grand prize, there's 3 runner-up prizes, and then everyone who enters gets free digital wallpapers. So I'm really trying to make this a win-win for everyone who takes their time to enter this, because it takes time to give me your name and such, and I want to reward people for that. So in addition to possibly getting a prize, you get digital wallpapers, and I can show you really quick. Yeah, here he is. Let me see if I can hide this stuff. That's Kaizen
Hold on, I'll put you up.
in the phone. So it's either Kaizen or it's Chronolith, and it's for your phone, it's for your tablet, for your desktop. I get them all on my computers. I love it. I eat it up. I love it. So
I put the link there in the chat, so you guys who are going to go, well, I'm too lazy for that, Ralph. There it is. It's in the chat.
No,
that was good.
Be a part of this.
yeah, it's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
We
the
want
grand
kids to
prize
pick
is like
characters. Yep.
you get a cap as well. So we got our Time
It's a
Enforcer
good cap. I really like it.
Yeah,
It is a good
also
cap.
very useful
Thanks,
this time
Raphael.
of year.
Yeah, very functional stuff.
Yeah, your cap has actually saved me a couple times, especially from now that I'm going bald from getting some sunburn.
yeah. So it's fun.
I think the fun part is hopefully getting kids of all ages, from every age right until adulthood, excited about history and being engaged and feeling like they're picking characters and seeing them come to fruition. I mean, Paul does. We were in Rhode Island recently visiting some family, and we were on the beach, and he had a sketchbook out on the beach, and he turned it around and he goes, here's a preliminary draft of one of the characters. Like he starts with it and he sketches it, and he's trained artistically as well as all the tech knowledge. There he is. So
I sketch first and then I go. So that's Togo.
Yeah.
So cute.
So
so he's developing. He's always developing.
So I'm old school.
Oh my God, too
sketch
cool.
first and then I go. And
Shout out to old school. Paper is the best.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Paper still works, and I think it's cool as someone living with him, right, to see this go from beachside sketches to something that becomes an art form online, marrying the digital with his artistic background. Not to brag, but he's really a one-man band in a lot of ways with his talent set, and it's really cool to see how he's brought this all together. It's cool, like Leanna, multi-talented, integrating the written word with performing arts. I mean, I love that. I'm envious of all your talents. It's amazing.
Oh, I had a
I-
question. Sorry.
the arts are my only marketable skill. I can't. I can only do things in the arts. I have nothing else I'm able to do. So I have
It
to
only
do
takes
several.
one thing, right?
I have
But
to,
like
I
you
have to be able
say,
to do several because you need several to be able to make a living. You need to be able to juggle several.
there is a practicality. That's why
There's that.
Paul's, marketing executive by day,
Right.
comic guru by night, right?
Right,
So,
right.
I mean, yeah, but to have such a gift in a particular arena is
Yeah.
wonderful,
Yeah, VMod is great. I mean, I use that for all my voices, and I can play anything I want. It's awesome.
But we're hoping to branch out for,
Not just
voice
your
characterization
voiceover
and
talent, but
representation as the company develops. I think it'll be cool to bring in other individuals for voice talent representing the different characters.
Well, if you need a voice, I'm right there.
I
oh,
know we've been
actually,
chatting about the people we've met.
there we go. I'm tapping everybody in this call.
No, and even some of the wonderful artists at the Comic-Con
Oh my
that
God,
Paul
yeah.
is just
Mhm.
like starstruck with. And we were like, wouldn't it be cool? Like we start like dreaming of like how to engage all the different talent out there. It's, it's exciting. Art has endless possibilities, much
Amazing.
like history, right?
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, one of
Yeah.
my prior lives is actually I was one of the founders of a New York Metro magazine. This is back in the 80s, and
Called Metro.
Called
Yeah, we were
Metro.
dating at the time.
yeah,
I remember Metro. Yeah.
yeah, we call it the People of New York, People magazine in New York, and I've never met so many creative people when I did that experience, artists, photographers, writers, and just I get inspired by that. I mean, I think creativity spawns more creativity, and ideas spawn new ideas. And that's what I love about the collaboration the most. I mean, I don't want to do this forever myself. I really want to expand this out and bring other people in, because I think
Yeah.
that's the true talent of having a platform like this, is really making opportunities for other people to express their creativity. And
I
that's,
gotta say, I miss magazines.
yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I do too, Raphael. Yeah, they were a big part of learning in a different way too,
Yeah.
and being exposed to things
Exactly.
in our
You hold it, you
culture.
can
And
feel it, It's just, it was,
Yeah.
it's,
you turn
there's
in the
something about
page.
that, that's
Yeah.
what I love about comics still.
Yeah.
The digitals is something else, but I love picking up a book and just reading it, turning the pages, what's going to happen next. It's the anticipation. It's all about, where is this writer going to lead me, and how's the artwork going to blow my mind? And that's what I love most about comic books. It's just, that whole graphic novel experience.
Matta, what were you
Graphic
gonna ask?
novel. I'm sorry, Raphael, go ahead.
Matta, what were you gonna ask?
Oh, I was gonna ask how the game works, because we talked a lot about like the history aspect and the learning aspect, but like, what are the game mechanics?
Good question.
Well,
Great question.
I took this project on. I didn't know a programming language, so I found a platform that I knew would be universal, which is Unity. I learned C# as a programming language. So in terms of the game itself, it's probably kind of crude looking, but I find it interesting. It's a top-down role-playing game, so you walk around like Link or one of the Mario games, and you go around and you have to go through the level and figure out puzzles. And the thing about it is, the digital comic comes into play as you progress through the game. So you start off with an introduction, the problems posed in terms of what we need to find out. Samurai Warrior Kaizen then goes and tries to search the answers. And so he goes through this role-playing game where he's like defeating Chronolith minions, and then you come to a port where you confront Chronolith for the first time, and then you have to realize, okay, now I have to keep going. And so you go to his realm and start doing stuff there, and then you run into this character called the Inquisitor, and the Inquisitor is this person who poses the questions, and basically you have to answer the questions in order to progress through the game. That's where
About the history relevant to the game. Yeah.
So like
Feudal
in
Japan.
this case, the Inquisitor is posing questions about feudal Japan. They're not, brain teasers per se, but it's enough where you start to get a sense and a taste for learning. And I think about one of the games I played as a kid, and that was Fallout. And you had the Pip-Boy on his wrist, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's this device in the game called the Chronoton that you hold. That Chronoton actually contains all the answers to the questions that you need to go through the game. So you're giving kids an opportunity to find the answers without having to look outside the game. They read through it, they find out what they need to do, and then they answer the question. You answer the question wrong, you get bombarded by minions. So it's like, there's rewards for answering the question right, and there's not many rewards for answering it wrong. So
All right.
that's the
So,
fun part of it.
next question.
Yeah.
So in game, in order to answer the Inquisitor's questions, do you actually have to pick up the knowledge like in game and then answer, or is it that like if somebody actually knows the answer without having to go through the quest, can they just answer the question right
Yes,
there?
they can. Yeah.
Like if it's something they just know off the top of their head, so they can just answer it like that.
Yeah, there are some very obvious answers, okay, and there's others that are not so obvious where you have to go in game and find out. And that's really, what I was trying to make it where it's a challenge for any level of learning. So kids that may not know anything, they at least have the opportunity to find the answers in the game. And some questions are probably obvious for some players, which is fine. Then you move through pretty quickly. But
yeah, I mean, it rewards people for knowing things, and I'm the kind of person that when I'm watching Jeopardy, I love to feel really smug when I know the answer.
It's true. I knew that.
Yeah, like, oh, I got this. I know that whole row over there.
It's like Cliff Clavin. Yes.
It feels so good. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm dating myself now. But anyway, that was really the whole premise behind it, was to make it accessible for different levels of learners, and that's where I got a lot of assistance from Mary in getting that done. It's really making it so a parent can sit with their kid who might be small and have them, read the information to them, and they can figure out the answers themselves. Or you have mid-level learners that would probably need to go to the game and figure out what it is, and then older learners probably know what the answers are. It's like, yeah, this is a no-brainer, which is fine. So that's good. And but yeah, just the way I looked at it was trying to make it, a really multi-level experience for a lot of players. It's not really segmented for like the really early learners. I really didn't want to go down that road. I want to have a little bit more sophistication, because really, how can you get a BAM and a BAMF and a slug and a, because I have all the Batman graphics going on, and it's just
bubbles,
yeah. So,
and I think we talked a lot about the pacing of the game, which is so important in terms of design for learning and reaching all types of learners with auditory issues or perhaps visual processing challenges, which dominates a lot of the work that I do with young people. And he and I really talked about like wanting to respect that and sort of dial down the intensity that's characteristic of so much gaming now. It's just so rapid fire. You walk away without, I don't know. I mean, maybe Paul can talk about this more. He's more of a gamer than me, but I felt like if it was going to be really a learning experience, which I think distinguishes this in the market, right? It needs to pace itself and not just be an inundating, intense, stressful experience for young people. I know what you mean. If you see it, it's a little slower,
Test. That feeling of taking a test is
especially a timed test with a very short timer.
Right.
Like, yeah, top-down RPG is actually the perfect sort of format for this, because then you can just like walk your character around and like learn little by little. You kind of read at your own pace. You don't have lots of stuff coming at you in real time. It's a great way to let everybody
process.
To process it and just to
walk away. Yeah, like theater, right? You want to walk away with an experience where you've absorbed something, and it's adjusted how you've thought about something, or felt. So there's an intentionality to the pacing of the game.
Yeah, I mean it's all dialogue. So when you get into the digital comic, the characters are all animated. They're actually talking on screen.
They're fun. Yeah.
They have word balloons. They have thought balloons popping up, so you can actually read and hear at the same time. And that's how we really thought the inclusivity was really an important aspect to it. And so it's, we're not really trying to leave anybody behind. We're trying to give them an opportunity to really experience the whole game and understand what's happening. That way they're not left behind, so to speak. So.
Very well thought out. I appreciate that.
Thanks. Thanks.
I gotta say, we love what you have. I see we're at the hour mark, so Paul, why don't you tell the people where they can find you, all the good stuff? I'll put it up one more time.
Yeah, sure. I mean, our main website is timeenforcers.com. It's pretty easy to know. We're on all social media. I mean, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I mean, posting the stuff.
Reddit, yeah.
But at Time Enforcers is where we got it, and we're actively posting all the time, and I look forward to hearing feedback. So I do reply to comments that are made. I take that very personally, and I really want to understand what people are thinking. We do have the first game out. We did the launch at the Comic-Con for the Garden State Art Fest. So that's available for purchase, but we're trying to throw a bunch of free stuff in with it, not just the game. So in terms of the game, you'll have access to all future episodes of the game. Again, I think about this as like a Batman episode. So it's like first episode, then what happens next. And the next episode will be, flying into the Chronostorm with Amelia Earhart, very much like a Galaga experience where you're going to be flying her airplane through the multidimensional zones of time. And so take it upon that aspect, really trying to make it a value-added product that we will offer more than you anticipate. And so in addition to the game, you're going to get every game that comes out afterwards, and you're also going to get a year subscription to our magazine, which we're publishing bi-monthly. So it's a digital edition. The first issue's done. We'll have another issue in August. It's going to feature characters within the game. You have a little backstory, maybe clues to the future episodes that are going to happen. But we also talk about the times and cultures that the character takes place. So in the first issue, we focus on feudal Japan, and that's where we talk about the samurai and what it meant to be a samurai during that time, and what was a shogunate, and what it meant to be have a value of honor in terms of integrity. And what fascinated me about the I don't mean to digress, but I got into samurai through a movie called The Magnificent Seven, and I found out that The Magnificent Seven was actually based on the Seven Samurai almost verbatim. And when I found that out, because I'm sorry, was it I'm starting was a Yul Brynner, it's just like a whole host of cool actors actually based on a movie that was made by samurai. That led me down this path for a fascination with feudal Japan. So talk about that whole
Samurai 7.
Yeah, it's just it blew my mind. So that's what I love about it. But anyway, you get the magazine, so you get a subscription to that for a year, and you also get the digital wallpaper. So we're going to throw that in for free as well. So we're continuing building this up, and trying to get people interested in it. That's what we're kind of going.
Get the word out, yeah.
Andrew's asking, do you play with environmental immersion?
Well, my programming skills aren't that great yet, Andrew, but I am trying that. I mean,
it's
I do the settings, but it's like, that's a whole nother level. I mean, I love Pokemon Go, and so kind of like that reality of playing Pokemon Go within your own reality is kind of cool to me. I think that'd be really cool for Time Forces as well. You walk around and you actually discover historic sites in the area. And that kind of means like where we end up going with this could be a possibility.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
that'd be great. You're walking around. There's a historical site over there.
Exactly.
And then you discover history all around you.
Exactly.
And you've got kids on car trips who were stuck on their tablets or phones and not looking out the window like we did when I was a kid. You looked around, and this would get them engaged. I mean, we've talked about that sort of integration with GPS type of, that technology. So there's lots of things we've been talking about. It's a matter of building out the business and bringing in talent.
It's kind of funny because even as adults, and I know Leanne, this because you actually do the tours. You'll do the tours, and I know people will sit there and look at you like, what? That happened here?
I want to do a tour. I want to go on a tour. I gotta do it. Me and my best friend have been meaning to do like ghost tours for the longest time. I think I gotta get her in on it.
Do it. burrowsofthedead.com. So go to burrowsofthedead.com. Now I'm not doing tours until October, because I am on tour. I'm doing both the show that I'm here to talk about.
So you're not doing tours because you're on tour.
Because yes,
you're doing
I'm not giving tours because I'm on tour. So correct. But in October, you all are welcome to find me on social media if you want to know what tours I am giving. Towards the end of October, I always do like a weekend where I'm just doing a bunch of tours towards the end of October.
And it's on her Instagram. I see when it pops up. I've just been trying not to be busy in order to go and see Leanne.
Yes, yeah. So in terms of where you can find me, LeannaReneeHebert.com. And that's where you can, if you type my name into your favorite bookstore's website, you will see books of mine that come up. And my most recent one being A Haunted History of Invisible Women, True Stories of America's Ghosts. That's our newest and most popular book, I have to say.
And then show it off again, because I know it's right behind you.
I've already got it on my wish list. I'm getting that because I need to read it.
Great title.
Of Invisible Women, True Stories of America's Ghosts. Yeah, we're doing that little sort of that double meaning there with invisible, both in terms of spectral, but also the invisible labor of women through history. So yeah, now there is a book called Invisible Women that is actually about living women's invisible labor. So please also get that book, because we hope that we've given a boost of that with it. We're kind of referencing it with our title. But as far as the show is concerned, Let's Misbehave, if you go on to Kickstarter.com, we have 1 week left. So we have 1 week left till we hit our funding goal. And you get all kinds of really fun goodies. There is really cool stuff that you can get. You can get art. You can get like your own sort of 1920s jazz age poster. There's just really fun virtual tickets. It's a PG-13 show. It's a little saucy, but it's not like R-rated, so it's fine for teens. And it's definitely a show that is about celebrating community and about like just a whole lot of really, really fun kind of kooky environments, in which case your characters are trying to find their way and find their people. And it started as a bit of a actually like a script for a television pilot, and then Lauren Scullo, the playwright, was like, I think that actually this wants to be a stage production. So it's definitely progressed through the past several years in different incarnations, and I'm just really, really blessed to be a part of it. Again, I play the Countess, and she's a wild baddie character who throws massive parties where she is a reincarnate goddess of some. Every time she's a different reincarnate goddess, every time you see her. And so she's there to just kind of be a bit of wild comic relief, which is really, really fun over the course of this show. And because it is featuring different marginalized identities, we're really trying to make sure we're doing this well and sensitively, and also making sure we're paying people well who don't always get a lot of opportunities. Trans characters playing trans roles. There's not been a lot of theater that's done that. Theaters are starting to get better about non-binary casts and about characters as non-binary or trans characters being played by trans actors. The theater is getting better about that, but this is one that really is putting that front and center, and I'm just really glad to be a part of that as the support team.
I really appreciate that it's more that it's like a joyful celebratory type thing, because there's so much of a demand for like queer trauma, if you know what I mean, where it's just like everyone wants somebody's like sad autobiography where it's like, my dad beat me every day because I like boys, and I'm so sick of that. So I want to see something happy and uplifting and refreshing, and
that is the point.
I'm so glad that this exists.
That is the point, and that really was honestly with Lawrence, as a queer trans man, as a playwright, going, we want to do a fun show about queer joy, and for people of the community and their allies and their loved ones. And so this is basically just, it's fun, and we hope that folks will tune in. Again, you can get a virtual ticket. The virtual tickets are only $13, and you can watch from anywhere in the world. And then we're doing an in-person production on the 23rd to 25th at the Cambridge Foundry, so you can join our party in person if you're local to Boston, or watch us from anywhere in the world. And there's also a chance to be a part of things. You can get ephemera. The playwright's going to write little love notes and various other fun little notes that you can have. So there's different souvenirs of the production that you can get at the different Kickstarter levels. So we're pretty close to funded. We only have just under 2,000 to get there. And because I am a union actor, they have to pay a little bit more money and do a lot more paperwork to use me as an actor. So I'm really grateful. So I'm trying to sort of do my part to really help promote this as we go in our final week of funding. So the company Instagram is Let's Misbehave Play on Instagram, and there's really fun videos they put up and just information about the show and a chance to connect with our really talented group of performers. I'm very honored to be a part of this cast.
Yeah, they're very close, folks. They're like 1,000 and change away. Come on, folks. We can get them to 15,000. Come on.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? I mean, a lot of action happens in like the last few days of a Kickstarter, so you could hit that 15K or more.
Yeah, we've got program sponsors too. So if you have a business that you think, if you have like a historical business or a business of art that you feel would be a great community to tap into, then we have program sponsor slots available too. So.
Nice. I like all the stuff you have. And folks, of course, again, I made it easy, and I put it in the comment section over there. So don't give me that crap. I don't want to go find this.
That's fair. It's fair.
I would have banked it, but I didn't know where it was.
Exactly. So Matta, why don't you tell the people who you are and all the beautiful things you do?
No pressure. So yeah, I'm Matta Sorcier. I'm a self-taught artist and writer in the Bronx. I do this comic entirely by myself, so I do all the art, the writing, all of that jazz. It's called Sacrimony, A Tale of Love, Life, and Death in no particular order.
Still love that.
It's the story of a girl who died,
Here we go.
but then
You know what
got
happened?
better.
She got better.
And as with most mysterious resurrection stories, there's a catch. The catch is that she has no memory of her past, no idea why she has magical powers or wings, demon wings, that she has to hide from society. So yeah, it feels like, if you're familiar with the comic saga, it feels like that, but like not in space, and if the parents hated each other. So yeah, it looks super serious, because if you look at the art, you're like, oh yeah, that looks like some super serious art, but like it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's a story about, like, you know, dysfunctional families, unresolved grief, all that good human stuff, even though it's a story about like gods ruining people's lives.
See, but Matt, I feel like you did the research right, because if you look at all those God stories from the olden days, they act more human than the humans do.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and I'm here for it. I mean, I grew up with a Hindu family, so like we're all about our gods, you know, being kind of flawed, not really always having the answers or having to figure out the answers. So it's just like, you know, they say write what you know. So that's like the kind of stuff that inspired me. Also, you know, Egyptian mythology. I can words tonight. Egyptian mythology, Greek mythology, like just anything with like, you know, petty human gods. I'm here for it.
And it's funny because we were talking about all this stuff about history and stuff like that, and what got me into history, what got me to find Joseph Campbell, why I found him so interesting, was because I started to find these stories of the gods, and I started going, hey, wait a minute, you know. And then when I ran into Joseph Campbell, he started breaking the whole thing down, and I was like, whoa. The hero's journey, you know, and it made life much easier and made writing much easier.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and I feel like a lot of people have forgotten the hero's journey, and now they just write whatever they want to write, and there's no flow or function to writing.
Yeah, or it's just like sad for sad's sake or gritty for gritty's sake. And I can't promise you that Sacrimony is like, you know, the hero's journey, but it is definitely a journey. Like the characters are all definitely
It's the
going
hero's
places.
journey, Matta.
We'll see about that. You might have different opinions by
Hey,
the
it
end.
doesn't matter where it ends up, because the hero's journey just means you're taking the journey. It doesn't mean that you have to end up the hero.
That is true. Being a hero was one of many options. And, you know, if they choose not to take that option,
Exactly.
well, womp womp. But yeah,
And I can tell you this, folks, you're going to be yelling at your comic, because, you know, you sit there going, why did you do that?
yeah, there's going to be a lot of those moments, because the characters are not perfect. They don't have all of the answers. And honestly, like, I love those kinds of stories more than when it's like, you know, this character is just like, yes, I have this all figured out. I'm going to do this, and that. And like everything works according to plan. And, you know, you get kind of like a boring, predictable story. So yeah, I tried to write it in a way where it's just like, it's not so formulaic. It's more of just like you're watching these people live their lives and kind of just be terrible at what they're doing. And, you know, you have some strong opinions on characters. Like, I don't think that, like, you know, people are going to have the same opinion on every character. Like, it's definitely going to be one of those things that starts debates where it's like, no, this character is trash. Like, no, this character is great. They just made a mistake because XYZ. And, you know, that, like, it's a fun thing to explore. I don't want people to just all have the same opinion and be like, yes, this character good, this character bad. I'm more of like, everybody is some sort of shade of gray, and like a good person will do a bad thing if, you know, that's what they have to do, or like there are bad people who do good things, and, you know, those people exist.
They do. They really do.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
And of course, on Wednesday, folks, we will be kicking off Pinguino's Revenge with Robert Powers. Of course, this kick-ass penguin is exactly that, kick-ass. He does a lot of great things. He actually has a nice samurai sword. And he goes right now. He's in a journey through hell.
Oh my goodness. What is he doing there?
Sounds rough.
You don't belong there.
Just
There's
like
a
you alone is
reason
gonna
why
be-
I love Penguino's Revenge, and you guys can learn so much more about it on Wednesday when we have Rob Powers here to talk way more about Penguino's Revenge, and for him to show off, because he does it as well. He's the artist, the writer. He does all those jack of all trades.
So he also doesn't sleep.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
I
All of it.
also we will have Gage here as well, because Rob and Gage are working on Gage's new book, Godslayers, and it's actually a prequel to Godslayers, and it looks really good because I got a sneak preview of it, and I'm salivating over it.
Ralph gets all the good forbidden knowledge.
And of course, we also have Heroinberg here on Wednesday, and you're going to learn all about this comic book / TV show, because he's doing both things.
How?
So join in and hang out with us on Wednesday for the Written Writ.
Very cool.
I don't know what else I had up here on my list, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's
Because my list went away and turned into the same Kickstarter. I'm like, okay.
technology working as intended.
Well, thank you for your time.
Oh, anytime, man. You guys are always welcome. You guys geeked out really good today. Loved it.
This was an awesome.
It was awesome meeting all of you.
Yeah, it's
really.
great talking to all of you.
Meeting everybody
Really
was
awesome stuff you're doing.
Thank you, all of you.
Yeah, totally awesome. Thank you.
Inspiring.
There you have it, folks. You got all those links in the beautiful comment section. What is it? What, 5 people showed up right now?
Of course, it's always towards the end, all of a sudden a bunch of people pile in, and you're just like, why were you guys not here like an hour ago? What is going on?
But they can catch us on
replay?
the recording.
Yeah, it's been recorded, so we're good.
Yeah,
Didn't miss out.
You hear it, folks. You 5 people, just rewind.
please have a long life.
All right, I'm old, so rewind.
Be kind,
Watch
everyone.
from the beginning.
Press reverse.
Exactly. Any last words, guys?
Just thank you. You know, I mean, you were awesome when we met you at Comic-Con, when Paul grabbed you on knowing who you were and said, oh, you want to hear about our game? And you were so patient, kind, and locked in to just listening. And we're grateful for people like you. Thank you.
Like I told you there, and I'll tell all you guys out there, because, I know you see me walking through the conventions. Dude, if you stop me, I'm going to listen.
You did.
I love it.
Because it showcases you have passion for whatever it is you're doing. So I'm going to
That's
sit
true.
there and listen to whatever it is you're going to tell me. And maybe I'll even do a little interview with you.
This is.
Yeah.
I totally
You're great.
appreciate Raphael, and just meeting Leanna and Matta. It's just been such a.
Yeah, that was a bonus, really.
Yeah, I feel like my network
Awesome.
is spanning like bounds by now just by doing this. This is so cool. It's
inspiring to
part of
find
life.
people who are willing to go out of the box and deliver something new in a platform where it can be heard and seen. And I just think that's something I think we're all sharing tonight, and including Raphael and your gift to bring it to people. I mean, and listen. So thank you so much, and wish you all well.
I got to tell you, folks, if you're looking for some interesting books, Liana books are really interesting. They have that beautiful blend of history and creativity. That's always up my alley, because I'm a big history buff, and I find that you write the best stories when you base them on some kind of reality.
Well, this feels so full circle too, because I met Kadma. Oh my God, it would be 12 years ago now, when her and I were on set together.
Yep.
Doing, working in the business in New York City, and just struck up a conversation. Just had the best. I had one of the best days on set, sitting next to this brilliant lady, and we've been connected ever since. And so it's kind of wonderful to be here talking about a production that I'm doing, having kind of walked away from theater and performance for a little bit to focus on the books. And then, everything is full circle. And I'm just so glad you all have been here through this whole journey, through all of it. And bless you for that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, folks, I've been saying it more and more because it just hit me. We're going into our 9th anniversary as Bitten
Wow.
Amazing. Yeah. Congratulations.
And I have no words. And it's funny because somebody showed up from 9 years ago that we did an interview with at a certain location, and they were like, "Oh my God, Bitten Apple TV," and I was like, "Dude, It's been an interesting run, and I guess because we're heading towards 10th anniversary, I will start saying stuff about here we go at 9, moving into 10. And folks, be good to each other. We raise each other up. That's how it works, folks.
Yep.
Right. Right.
There goes someone saying 9 years of greatness. And folks, that's the son of Saint, amazing artist. He does comic book covers, movie posters. This guy does everything. So go hit him up. Amazing art. I still love doing my When Worlds Collide with him. When we took all the characters from all different places and threw them into an arena and had them fight. All right, folks, I think it's time to go. I'll do what we do here on this show, which is I didn't do it last time because I completely forgot what show I was on.
Yeah, that was the night. I don't know what was going on.
Are you gonna sing?
No, we do this. Bam, folks, get the hell